So in this reading passage too, we have something that is called about an Easterland. And they're saying that what destroyed the civilization of Easterland, meaning so the Easterland was developing in some means, so there was a destruction of it for it. So there's something that came against the civilization of an Easterland. So when you go look at the questions and try to identify them, you can easily so when you understand the format, it actually becomes easier for you to navigate through the answers. So despite matching headings, of course, the list of headings that is asking for you to find out, it's going to be definitely harder if you don't really understand the syntax of the paragraph. If you don't really, the me syntax actually means that it's like how one sentence is connected to the other one, yet making a meaning of a whole paragraph. So yeah. So as you know that matching heading questions, they don't really come they don't really come as sorry for that. They don't really come as by order. They don't really come by order. Although you know that it's of course the alphabetical order. It's like ABC, but the paragraph, but obviously not the answers. However, when it comes to summary completion, they sometimes tend to come from the first or the second. So you really have to know here. They usually come from the first or the second sentence or the last, sometimes even though the last sentence as well. And so once again, the summer completion questions, they don't really come in order as well. So you have to understand that they might come in order, except for some of the questions that might be spread out. It might be located in a far away answer, a far away paragraph than you might have expected. However, the multiple choice question, which is five option multiple choice, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they come in order. So what you have to do is here the question is asking, on what points do Hunt and Lippo disagree with a diamond? That's what is asking from you. And yeah, now if you go through each of them, let's get started. Easterland or Rapa Nui, as it is known locally, is a home. All right, so let's get that now. Is a home locally. So it is home to several hundred ancient human statues. So the Moai. So the Moai is a statue. After the remote Pacific island was settled by the Polynesians, it remained isolated for centuries. So um, Polynesians invaded, or they just came to that places, and then it remained isolated for centuries, meaning they were not known for many years. All the energy and the resources that went into the Moai, some of which are 10 meters tall and weigh about 7,000 kilos, came from the island itself. Yet, when Dutch explorers landed in 1722, they met a Stone Age culture. The Moai were carved with stone tools. They were carved with stone tools, then transported for many kilometers without the use of animals and wheels to massive stone platforms. The identity of the Moai builders was in doubt until well into the 20th century. Okay, so the identity of the Moai, so the identity of the statue of the statue builders. So what it is saying that it is saying that it was not known who built the Moai statues well until the 20th century. So Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian ethnographer and adventurer, thought the statues had been created by pre-Inca peoples from Peru. So and the best-selling Swiss author Eric von Daniken believed they were built by stranded extraterrestrials. Modern science, linguistic, archaeological, and genetic evidence has definitely proved the Moai builders were Polynesians. So, but not how they moved their creations. Local folklore maintains that the statues walked, while researchers have tended to assume the ancestors dragged the statues somehow using ropes and logs. Okay, one thing we forgot about doing this is we want to read the summary completion as well. If we might get answers from here as well. So Diamond believes that the Polynesian settlers on Rapa Nui destroyed its forest, cutting down its trees for fuel and clearing land for something. 20th century discoveries of Poland. So we have 20th century discoveries of Poland prove that Rapa Nui had once been covered in palm forests. So it's which had turned into grassland by the time Europeans arrived on the island. So when the islanders were no longer able to build something, they needed to go to fishing. They began using the islands as something else, as a food source, according to Diamond. So Diamond also claims that the Moai were built to show the power of the island's chieftains. So the methods of transporting the statues needed not only a great number of people, but also a great number of something else. All right, so and yet still we don't have any answers to that. However, we have a paragraph A. Paragraph A, evidence of an innovative environment management practices. Evidence of innovative environment management practices means that that's some sort of a way that a very new way of controlling the environment. It's not talking about that. And an undisputed answer to a question about the Moai. An undisputed answer to a question is definitely number two, I guess. But still, the future of the Moai statues, a theory which supported local belief. So there's no local belief. The future to opposing views, destruction outside the habitats control, how the statues made a situation worse. There's nothing of that, and diminishing food sources as well. However, evidence of innovative environment management practice were nothing there about that, and future as well. Future of Moai statues and the future of Easter Island. So undisputed answer to a question about the Moai is something that is really we can get as an answer, because undisputed answer, it says that the identity of the Moai wasn't down until well into the 20th century. Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian ethnographer and butcher, he says he explains he explains some people's assumptions how the Moai were built. The paragraph ends with noting the modern sites. The modern sites has so it is saying that the modern science, linguistic, archaeological, and genetic evidence has definitely proved the Moai builders were Polynesians. So this is pretty much what is the answer. That is the whole the whole let's say, let me just remove actually this one and just give it a color. So modern science, this is what is actually giving you the answer here. So I'm just going to highlight that as well. So I'm going to remove that for a minute, and I'm just going to give this a number as the number 14. There we go. Now, so let's go more. So, take that. When the Europeans arrived, Rapa Nui was grassland with only a few scrawny trees. In the 1970s, in the 1980s, though, we want to find any names. We don't have any names, okay? So in the 1970s and 1980s, though, researchers found pollen preserved in lake sediments, which proved the island had been covered in lush palm forests for thousands of years. It is saying something related to this one. But let's look at more. Only after the Polynesians arrived did these forests disappear. So the Polynesians arrived and the forest started disappearing. The U.S. scientist Jared Diamond believes that the Rapa Nui people, descended of the Polynesian settlers, wrecked their own environment. They wrecked their own environment. They had unfortunately settled on an extremely fragile island, dry, cool, and too remote to be properly fertilized by wind-blown volcanic ash. When the islanders cleared the forest for firewood and farming, so there we go. We have one answer for here. 21. So we have a 21 here. Land for firewood is fuel, and farming is another answer for us. The forest didn't grow back, so as trees became scarce and they could no longer construct wooden canoes, okay, which had turned into grassland by the time Europeans arrived on the island. So it had turned into a grassland means so around the forest disappear or something related to that. We're not really sure. Just when the islanders were no longer able to build something, they needed to go to fishing. Okay, so when islanders were cleared the forest, firewood, and farming, the forest didn't grow back. As trees became scarce, they could no longer construct wooden canoes for fishing, and they ate birds. There we go. It's somehow it's giving another answer for us. I think it's giving two answers for us. Number 22 and 23. So I'm gonna 22 and then 23. I'm just gonna give it this number and highlight that. So 22 and 23. So 22 is basically canoes. We have canoes, and then began. So they needed to go to fishing. They began using the island something. So they could not build a boat, which is another word, canoes, for fishing. So of course they needed a canoe. They needed a boat to console to go for fishing. So and once they could no longer do that, they had to eat birds. So using the island's birds as a food source. It's not birds, but birds. According to Dama. So Dama also claims that the Moai were built to show the power of the island's chieftains. So soil erosion decreased their crop yields. Before Europeans arrived, the Rapa Nui had descended into civil war and cannibalism. He maintains the collapse of their isolated civilization, Diamond writes, is a worst case scenario for what may lie ahead of us in our own future. Okay. Now, one thing we didn't do here is I want to remove this one. And want to remove that and just give this one as number two, I guess. There we go. So I want to remove this in terms of color because it's paragraph B is basically about the paragraph B is basically about food. So like the way food became scarce, meaning it was there was a lack of food and so on and so forth. So yeah, I guess that's number 9 is the answer. So there's nothing else we can choose. Diminishing food resources. And since because when the islanders, the Rapa Nui people, cleared the forest for firewood and farming, the forest didn't grow back, right? So yeah, and as the trees became scarce and they could no longer conserve wooden canoes for fishing, they ate birds. Soil erosion decreased their crop yields. So this led to the collapse of their isolated civilization. So the correct heading for this paragraph is diminishing resources. So of course, yeah, the most logical answer for that, I guess. All right. So now we will go for the paragraph C. The Moai he thinks is about talking about the diamond, accelerated the self-destruction. So accelerated the self-destruction is another one to say made it a situation worse. So I'm gonna give this in advance. And so now if the paragraph emphasizes, then this is gonna be another one. The Moai he thinks accelerated the self-destruction. Diamond interprets them as a power displaced by rival chieftains who trapped on a remote island, on a remote little island, lacked other ways of asserting their dominance. They competed by building ever bigger figures. Diamond thinks they laid the Moai on wooden sledges hauled over log rails, but that required both a lot of wood and a lot of people. So there we go, but not only a great number of people, but also a great deal of wood. So we have that finally. We can take this one and highlight that and give this a number 24. There we go. So now we haven't really found anything related to opposition here, because what you have to know is that basically when the summer completion is it is like you can basically understand that it comes, you can see that, as I said, summer completion they come from the first or the second sentence, paragraph, and sometimes usually the last one they come from the very last or the very separate one, which is of course C. So now archaeologist Terry Hunt of the University of Hawaii and Carl Lippel of California State University agree that Easter Island lost its lush forests, and this was an ecological catastrophe. But they believe the islanders themselves weren't to blame. So they were not to blame, and the Moai certainly weren't. Archaeological excavations indicate that Rapa Nui went to heroic efforts to protect their resources of their wind lashed. So that's basically what is I think is the answer for now. So basically, what is it? Moreover, firstly, in paragraph C, they're saying that um, Raponi people laid the moai on wooden sledges, hauled over log rails, but they require both a lot of wood and a lot of people. Now, here it says they went into heroic efforts to protect sources of their wind-lashed infertile fields. They built thousands of circular stone windbreaks and gardened inside them and used broken volcanic rocks to keep the soil moist. In short, Hunt and Lipper argued that his prehistoric Raponi were pioneers of sustainable farming. Right? So, paragraph a little. Now, the first one is so basically the paragraph D. Paragraph D is some sort of an opposition, I believe. Paragraph C is some sort of an opposition. That's 100% has to be the answer. Two opposing views, or is it two opposing views, or not? Not two opposing views, definitely, yeah. So I think, what is D about? We want to navigate through D. So let's see D. So D, archaeological Terry Hunt, blah blah blah. Archaeological excavations indicate that Rapa Nui went into heroic efforts to protect the resources from the wind lash and for upwards. So it is saying that they built thousands of circular stone windbreaks and gardens inside them, and used broken volcanic rocks to keep the soil moist. So the writer concludes that in short, prehistoric, they were the pioneers of sustainable farming. So the evidence of innovative environment management practices, I can say surely, but I think I'm going to give it a number one because there's nothing else that is suitable for that. So it's an evidence of innovation in environment management practices. They were pioneers of sustainable farming, environment management practices. So environment circulars from windbreaks and gardened inside them and used broken volcanic rocks to keep the soil moist. Some sort of an environment, most definitely. So now let's read the paragraph E now. Hunt and Lippe contend. So you can see an opposition. Hunt and Lippe contend that Moables was an activity that helped keep the peace between the islanders. They helped to keep the peace between the islanders. They also believe that that moving the Moai required few people and no wood because they were walked upright. So there is the first opposition here. That's 100% we can say that. So opposition number one. Is that true? Where is it? What point did you hunt? The period when the Moai were created, how the Moai were transported. So paragraph C. They said the laid the Moai on wooden sledges. Wooden sledges hold over log rails, but that require both a lot of wood and a lot of people. But the C here is that on that issue, Handlipo says the archaeological evidence backs up the Rapa Nui folklore. Recent experiments indicate that few as 18 people could, with strong ropes and bit of practice, easily maneuver a 1,000 kilograms Moai replica a few hundred meters. So this is how it was transported. So this is the first one, and they help to keep the peace between the islanders. Um, so there's a help the peace between the islanders, saying that the impact of the Moai on the Rapa Nui society. Okay. Also, I'm not sure. So, what else does it say? We have to see. To feed the people, even more land had to be created. When the wood has gone, civil war began. The islanders began toppling the Moai. However, what does the paragraph be about? But I think like the impact of the Moai on the Rapa Nui society, because there's nothing else yet. However, I'm not going to highlight that just yet. But the paragraph D, the answer, paragraph E, I mean, paragraph E is about destruction outside the inhabitants' control. No, not really. Okay. A theory which supports a local belief. The future of the Moai statues, no. To the future of Easter Island, no, 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 no. I think that's number four. I'm gonna give it a number four. Okay, so the reason for this number four, there's an emphasis about it. Now let's they contend they're contending together and so on and so forth. There's support. This is a paragraph E, some sort of a backs up Hunter Liposo's archaeological evidence backs up Rapa Nui folklore. So folklore is like another word for a local belief. So and support is like some sort of a backup. So I'm just navigating through the vocabulary. I mean, IELTS reading is the whole concept of IELTS reading is about the vocabulary. The more vocabulary you know, the better the chances are for you to get a higher score. So I think that is it. So local belief is a folklore, and the supports is a backup. So that's how I'm navigating through. However, the paragraph E is some sort of Hunt and Lippo. They're contending. They're saying that the society of Moai Islanders. They were helping to keep the peace, and they were also opposing that it was easier for them to transport the Moai statues and so on and so forth. All right, the paragraph F. Moreover, Hunt and Lippo are convinced that the settlers were not wholly responsible for the loss of the island's trees. Archaeological finds of nuts from the extinct Easter Island palms show tiny grooves made by the teeth of Polynesian rats. The rats arrived along the settlers, and just a few years had Lippo calculated they would have overrun the island. They would have they would have prevented the receding of the slow-growing palm trees and thereby doomed the Rapa Nui's forest, even without settlers' campaign of the deforestation. There we go. Yes, finally the answer the impact of the Raponet society. So they're saying that they were not wholly responsible for that. It was responsible because of the rats, Polynesian rats, that a rat that came in with the Europeans. And moreover, Hunt and Lippo also see no evidence that Raponet civilization collapsed when the palm forest did. They think its population grew rapidly and then remained more or less stable until the arrival of the Europeans, who introduced deadly diseases to which islanders had no immunity. Then in the 19th century, slave traders decimated the population, which shriveled to 111 people by 1877. Destruction outside the inhabitants' control, I guess. Yep. There are no two opposing views. That's basically what it's saying for us, I guess. They're saying we're not wholly responsible for the islands. So I think it was destruction outside the inhabitants' control. So outside the inhabitants control means someone else did the destruction. So it's like rats. So that's probably the most suitable answer. I guess give it a number 7. Now, paragraph G, finally, Hantalippo Vision, therefore, is one of the islands populated by peaceful and ingenious people, Moai builders. Vision, okay. Views, I guess. So, Hantalippo Vision, therefore, is one of the islands populated by peaceful, ingenious Moai builders and careful stewards of the land, rather than by reckless destroying, ruining their own environment and society. So, two opposing views. So, the one opposing views, they're saying that the island was populated by peaceful and ingenious island was populated by peaceful and ingenious Moai builders and careful stewards of the land. That is that. And rather than reckless destroys ruining their own environment. That is another one. So the two opposing views. Rather than a case of abject failure, Napoli is an unlikely story of success. They claim, whichever is the case, there are surely some valuable lessons which the world at large can learn from the story of Rapa Nui people. Yep, paragraph G. I think it's going to be number 6. Number 6. There we go. So we want to remove these two. So once again, we forgot about that. We will give this as number 20. This is the whole answer for this. Now, did we highlight? Did we highlight more about it? Okay, right. So Hunter Lipper, they're convinced of they were not wholly responsible. Oops, not this. It was option C, 25 and 26. So they were 25 and 26. Whoops. So let's give it this a 25 and 26. 25 and 26, which is the option C. I'm gonna highlight this again. And what one more thing we have to do that the figures fat this one is another one recent experiment and blah blah blah. This is another answer for us. So I want to give it this another 20, 25 and 26, and it says option B, how it was transported. Yeah, it is. There we go. It was fairly easy, just for these two, despite some very weird topic sentences. Cambridge. I guess Cambridge is literally trying out our brains, even though nerves as well. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. It was fairly easy. We spent another one, so the upcoming video is going to be about the. I'm not really sure what it's going to be about. So passage 3. Thank you very much for watching. If you have questions, comment down below.